Right now, if you're in crypto, you're looking at your portfolio asking, am I a complete f***ing idiot for ever believing in this industry? You're down bad and you're wondering, should I sell and take whatever chips I can off the table and run away right now? Was my good pal EllioTrades leading me to slaughter? Was he completely full of shit? Or is this the bottom of a brutal shakeout at the beginning of an entirely new and potentially much more prosperous age for crypto? We're going to be answering that question for you. And of course, if you're a fan of the channel, you might have an idea of where this is going. More to the point, since we've last spoken, the most insane series of events in the history of this industry has taken place, and this episode is going to be jam-packed with not only actionable alpha for you and your portfolio, but absolutely wild stories about the last few days in crypto, and dare I say, some of the highest entertainment factor I've ever experienced in this industry. So you know what to do. If you like the new studio, and check it out, I got some new chairs behind me here. I have a little podcast I'm setting up here in the new studio. And no, I don't know why I've been getting so many comments asking if I'm AI now. I guess it's just the backdrop or whatever. But the reality is no, I'm not AI. Wish I was, because it would be nice to outsource some of this EllioTradesing. But no, this is me. And if you guys are excited for some good old human-generated content, you know what to do. Smash that like button. Make sure to subscribe with that bell notification on. And let's get into some good old-fashioned crypto alpha. I'm sure you can hear in my voice I've been a little sick, so give me a little break here. I'll be editing out the coughs and getting you the crypto content that you love. First and foremost, let's start with the truth, which is that this is a shakeout. That's what I believe. We are at the tail end of one of the biggest and most brutal shakeouts that I've ever experienced in this industry. And here is the reasons, not just hopium, not just I hope it goes up, but here are the real reasons I believe that this shakeout is coming to an end. First off, this morning, we've just gotten news. According to the official and edited Fed minutes, which need to be unanimously approved by all members of the Fed committee, meaning Jerome Powell and everyone else, claiming that the Federal Reserve is thinking about halting or slowing down balance sheet reduction pending debt ceiling resolution. In other words, quantitative tightening, the reduction of the balance sheet, is coming to an end. QT is finally ending. Now, why is this such a big deal? We've been talking about this over the last few episodes. If you look at essentially this chart here, which shows you this pink line here that goes down at the beginning, swoops up and goes up and over, that is the Fed balance sheet. And that is overlaid on this chart, which is total 3 minus the stablecoin. So you can see total 3, which is the altcoins, everything besides Bitcoin and Ethereum, and then subtracting stablecoins. And you can see that this particular line, of course, has not bottomed yet against its historical range. But more important than that historical range is this. Take a look at this cyan line right here that is in September of 2019. And you'll see that as this pink line stops going down, you see that altcoins stop going down against Bitcoin, because this chart fundamentally expresses the value of all the altcoins divided by the value of Bitcoin. And you can see, is the ratio continuing to drop, or is the ratio growing? And what you'll see is that as soon as quantitative tightening was ended in 2019, that's when this particular very brutal trajectory, which lasted all the way from the end of the prior bull run all the way through the bear market, well, that ended when quantitative tightening ended. And what you'll see is that this particular trend has been going on ever since the peak of the market, literally the end of quantitative easing. When they announced that they'd be switching to quantitative tightening, that's when this trend began to decline, altcoins against Bitcoin. And so essentially what we have here is evidence that this pink line might once again be coming to a close. And what they said was by mid-year, meaning that by the end of June, this should be happening, which would be obviously here. So what we see here is that we are in the end stages here. This tweet more or less communicates what I was trying to say, which is that we are still in the end stage of an altcoin bear market. The reason why this was so hard for us to accept is that you had coins going 10,000x or whatever, like Dog with Hat or Pepe. You had coins like Super, which did 30x off the lows. There was certainly bullishness in the coins. And if you were in the right coins at the right times, you made an absolute killing, the kind of killings that were only previously seen in bull markets. So it's possible that what we experienced was a new phenomenon, which is that there's so much liquidity in crypto that the hot ball of money, even in the bear markets, can keep moving around, creating pumps around different narratives throughout the bear market, even if we haven't truly entered into an altcoin season. And I would argue that we haven't really hit an altcoin season yet, despite my repeated cries that we're about to get there. Yes, I have been wrong many times about alt season, but I've also been right about specific altcoins. The biggest flaw in my logic is that we're on the brink of entering into a much more emboldened and widespread altcoin pump. But the reason why that hasn't happened is made pretty clear looking at this chart. But we now see that this pink line, which has been working against us and has been pretty much guiding the value of altcoins against Bitcoin, Bitcoin, well, that is going to either stop going down or potentially start creeping back up as soon as June, potentially sooner. They said by mid-year, which means it could happen before. Again, does that mean that alts can't come down a little bit more until then? Who knows? Maybe they will, because they're still reducing the balance sheet for the next few months. But I think we've seen most of the damage. And that's because we saw full-scale capitulation in the altcoins over the last few weeks. Now, we're going to get into the altcoins and how I see that market in a little bit. But first, we need to go through some of the craziest things going on with this industry and the macro backdrop that I think is rapidly improving, if not painting an absolute insanely bullish picture. First and foremost, they said it would never happen again. They said there will never again be government stimulus. No, it ruined the economy. It created rampant inflation. Well, what if the government stimulus was handed out through government savings? Meaning, instead of it just being newly fresh printed greenbacks, which of course cause inflation, what if it was from money that the government's just not siphoning off to causes that it's no longer supporting? I'm not going to get into the politics of this, because the reality is that depending on which side of the political aisle you are on, you either see Doge as bringing order and logic and sense to the government, which has been spending senselessly, or you see it as a wrecking ball, destroying literally all that the American people hold dear. Now, the point of this channel isn't to delve endlessly into politics, but I will say that if they are able to take the Doge savings and give them back to the people in the form of stimulus checks to the tune of $5,000, which would be over 4 times the amount that was sent out during COVID, I think that this would be the first time that a government has successfully bought back popularity with austerity. Austerity measures, meaning spending less money, is usually associated with unpopular practices because the people want you to give stuff out, want you to spend more money. That's what keeps this flywheel going, is politicians only get elected for promising goodies, for promising stuff for everybody. But if they're able to buy back votes with saved money, that's kind of crazy. And I wonder if it's going to work. A lot of people are debating whether or not this is going to actually happen, but this is very interesting, and it could create certainly a flywheel for risk, definitely a flywheel for the, consumer economy for sure. But again, I wanted to zoom in here. My buddy Crown, who I'll be doing a podcast with soon, has pointed out what you see here are these yellow and red lines. These are the 55 and 20 one-day exponential moving averages for Bitcoin on the 2-day chart. And you'll see that whenever they cross here, which they crossed right here, it will go down and touch this green line. And looking at Crown's video this morning, he said that essentially this counts. What you're seeing right here, even though it didn't perfectly tap it, there's a little bit of gap here. He said that he more or less considers this condition met, and that essentially he'd be looking for mostly onwards and upwards. He's also looking for the hash ribbons buy signal, all of which is very bullish technically on the chart. Despite all the whinging and whining you're seeing in the crypto ecosystem, the actual underlying data for Bitcoin is wildly strong. This is a strong Bitcoin chart, though some people are pointing out that this could be a double top. Maybe it is. Again, there's no promises in crypto. We all know the rules here. We're gambling for our own financial futures. We're gambling for our freedom. If you make a lot of money in crypto, I'm not going to come and ask you for a cut. And that's why you need to assume full responsibility for any losses that you might incur. This stuff is risky as all hell, but when it works pretty well. So that's what we're all hoping happens, that we're able to get the good side of crypto. We've seen it happen many times before. And I believe once QT is ended, we'll start seeing that happen again more sustainably for the altcoins, because markets are up only. The only thing is it's just mostly the safest assets in those markets. The S&P 500 is going bananas, even though most of those gains are concentrated in the top 7 Mag 7 stocks. But now it's time to talk about the absolute most insane thing I've ever seen happen in the history of this industry, in one of the craziest twists and turns saga that had me pull out. And this is why I have to say, if you're not following me on Twitter, you're going to be missing out on a significant chunk of my content. I've been sick. I haven't been able to make a video, and I had this revelation very quickly all at once, and I posted this. I'm sure you've heard by now that a meme coin was launched by the Argentinian president and then was almost instantly rugged to zero, causing losses in the hundreds and hundreds of millions, with a market cap that instantly sprung to over $4 billion and then went almost to zero. And the story behind it is filled with twists, turns, insiders, corruption, and allegedly I say, because this all needs to be proven in a court of law, some really disgustingly dark criminal activity. Now, all that being said, I made the comment several weeks ago that the Trump coin forever changed meme coins and kind of took away the ability for any of them to really have their moment, because this Trump coin sitting at the top in the Solana world kind of made everything below it way less likely to hold and grow value. All of those cults kind of felt very secondary to this big Trump thing. And now, after the Argentinian president effectively robbed everyone, allegedly, of hundreds of millions of dollars, or rather, I should say the team behind this coin, I think it's really pretty bearish for Sol, because Sol, and again, this is temporary, but I said this back on the 15th, right? And I said, I think Sol will go to zero at this rate. Obviously being overly dramatic, Sol is still the best blockchain, but a lot of the reasons that fueled the flywheel up for Sol over the course of this run were based on the fact that people were getting SOL so they could go gamble in the meme coin casino. And coins like WIF were actually going not just up, but up hundreds or thousands of X's, and people were able to use their SOL and multiply their wealth with this meme coin casino. But now the casino has become a euthanasia roller coaster where effectively you're playing Russian roulette with your stack every single time you buy a coin. And the most likely outcome is not a minus 20% or 30% like you might get with some altcoins, but it's minus 100%. And almost instantly, the level of rug and the severity of rug are something we've never seen before. And to me, it calls into question the core value prop that has seen SOL rise so fast from $8 to almost $300. So what I tweeted out here was, look, each meme rug chops their community down, truly the definition of offboarding, right? We're not expanding the pie. No one who came in and bought Trump or who came in and bought Milei's coin or who came in and bought any of these celebrity coins is better off for it, telling their friends and helping onboard more people. These are not onboarding events. These are making the pie smaller and dividing it up, not expanding the pie. And in fact, most of these coins are just going to Pump Fund, the casino, Meteora, Jupiter. They're going to these big companies who are then selling the Solana as revenue. So nobody's really benefiting here. It's not a net positive for the Solana ecosystem. Let's jump into this Libra situation because it's absolutely insane. Okay, so the TLDR here is Javier Milei, the president of Argentina, launched a meme coin with the help of Kelsier Ventures. The coin aims to, quote, fund Argentina's development. It runs up to $4.5 billion, launched with a single-sided LP via Meteora, and then liquidity was removed at higher prices. So this is the part where it gets really, really messed up, right? Because the coin was going up, going up, going up. And mind you, I actually bought into this thinking, oh, this is kind of like Trump, but you know, with a whole country behind it, maybe this will run up to, I don't know, maybe it'll run up to $10 or something like that. But what happened was, if you bought in, you noticed that when you went to sell, all of a sudden the slippage was 30, 40, 50%. You could not sell. And that's because the people running this project pulled the liquidity out once it was at a higher price, and that caused the price to completely collapse down to zero. And they made out with $110 million in the span of just an hour or two. That is absolutely one of the biggest liquidity extraction events in the history of this industry, right? So this is what happened is this coin runs up, and then what's even worse is Milei then deletes his tweet. He deletes his tweet saying that he was actually part of this project and claims that he's not a part of this and he didn't really know about it. Absolutely crazy. Okay, so now there becomes all these, sniffings around what's actually happening. And it turns out that people start identifying that there were several insiders who knew about the launch, that Dave Portnoy was apparently approached about promoting the coin and almost promoted it, that there were many influencers that are partnered with Kelsier Ventures on the website, and that there was lots of rumors and screenshots showing that people knew that this was coming, sniped the launches, prepared for this. Anyway, so all of this leads to, within what feels like the span of a few minutes, CoffeeZilla putting up a Kelsier interview. And let me say, I shit you not, this is one of the craziest, most insane interviews that I've ever seen in the history of my time in crypto. The amount of admissions that this person makes openly about the shady nature of the project and all of the backroom dealings, not just about that project, but they also implicate projects like Melania and Trump, several other high-profile influencer-led projects, and effectively showing that there was this insider racket where information was shared about the coins, that they were pre-sniped, that they effectively led the entire retail audience to slaughter, and that it was all a short-term, quick liquidity extraction game. And I personally think that there will be ramifications from this because meme coins have sort of existed in this, whatever, it's just gambling. People were kind of ignoring the external realities that everyone kind of knew, which is like, oh, there's all these insiders. Again, one of the things I'm most thankful about is that I never even really took meme coins very seriously. As you know, we bet on Pepe, we bet on things like Mog. I tried to get in the trenches, ended poorly. I honestly only lost money in the trenches. I had a few days where I thought I was starting to get the hang of it, but the truth is I just incinerated a bunch of SOL. And I honestly feel pretty dumb for ever chasing the trenches when that wasn't what I actually believed logically was the future of the industry. But regardless, I tried it, I learned, and I'm moving on. But back to the Libra scandal here. There's a point in this interview where he's talking to CoffeeZilla and he effectively says not only did they snipe their own coins launch, but that they sniped several other coins launches, and that he believes that it's not even unethical, that he believes that it's purely ethical because if they didn't snipe it, someone else would. Now, the truth is that this is kind of a complex topic because he's right. Someone else would have sniped the coin. But the problem I think here is that there's all of these backroom sort of non-obvious dealings happening with the project. If the project were to snipe the token and be like, hey, we self-sniped, here's our wallet, that would be one thing. But the projects are sniping their own tokens and doing it in sort of shady, non-obvious ways so that they can manipulate the price, make it seem like things are better than they are, or make it seem like things are not as bad as they are. Those are the real qualms here, because if they're doing something to kind of ward off shady actors, that's good. But if they become the shady actor with no accountability because their team wallets are locked, but their sniper wallet is completely unlocked, that is where things get really messy. And that's effectively where we are with all of these big, high-profile meme coin launches that are happening on Solana. Now, what's crazy is people like Dave Portnoy went on live stream immediately after saying that they got really good vibes off this guy Hayden Davis and that it was probably all being misunderstood and that he probably had best intentions. And then these absolute disgusting receipts started to come out, which in this particular case is a conversation about another meme coin called Mates. Mates was some other meme coin launch. I wasn't aware of it. I'm not that deep into the meme coin world, as you know, but he was talking to the market maker and they were saying, what do you want? What are your long-term goals? Do you want the coin to continue to pump or do you want to distribute all the coins as soon as possible? And he says, yeah, fellas, TBH, we are trying to max extract on this one. Again, this is all alleged and a bit hypothetical because I wasn't there. I wasn't part of these conversations. But I mean, to even say something like that is really disturbing. And it just shows you that the whole point of this meme coin, these big meme coin launches, they're not to create anything of substance, anything of value. And we'll get to what this all means for the industry in a little bit. But again, this was why I tweeted that I was getting out of Sol for a bit, because I think Solana was heavily tied to this notion that all the big coins are launching there and all the opportunities are on Solana. And if you're not trading in the meme coin casino, you're going to have fun staying poor. And while that might have been true in early 2024 and late 2023, when you got pump fund launching where you got way too many meme coins being created every single day, and you effectively have these big extractive events, well, the game's over and effectively the game is far too rigged and nobody's making money and everyone's getting effectively more poor. So Sol has lost its soul. And I do think things will get worse before they get better. So I think there's probably a buying opportunity for Solana, maybe in the low 100s or something like that. I'll keep you updated on my plan. But for now, I've just cashed my soul into USDC. I made that clear on Twitter. So make sure you're following me on X, on Twitter. I don't always have time to make videos here on YouTube, but that was my first position I kind of moved in and out of more significantly. And it was directly related to this Libra nonsense. Bubble Maps did a full breakdown here where they show how the Libra coin was created by the same team behind Melania. And everyone's sort of making fun of this guy. I don't like making fun of people for the way they look, but I mean, he is built kind of funny. And I think just under the circumstances of how much of a villain he's become, it's just crazy. But listen to this one clip. This is one clip where I think it explains a lot here. Dave Portnoy asks, whose money is this money? Because he keeps claiming that there's a project treasury with over $100 million. And this particular response is just not what you want to hear.
With the money.
Whose money is it? That's what I don't. I think that's the question.
I don't know.
Oof. Whose money is it? Panic attack. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think what's actually happening here is there's a lot of really powerful people involved. He's managed to name drop the presidents of Argentina, the current president of the United States, his wife. There are a lot of powerful people here that are being implicated. And so I think that this kid is freaking out. He's like 28. And I think he got himself into some serious trouble. And I think he's not sure what to say here because he knows the answer, clearly. But I don't think the answer is something that we all want to hear. And this is just craziness. Now, Milei is actually facing an incredible amount of opposition from within Argentina here, where his political opponents have started to use this to create an impeachment hearing. And he's trying to sort of distance himself from all of this or figure out how to explain this away. But Argentina's stock market actually crashed the day after this came out to the tune of 6%. Really, really dark stuff. So it shows you that there are real world consequences happening here. And there could be legal proceedings about this, not just in the United States, but in Argentina. Now, everyone and their mom has been jumping on this with over 1,000 Kelsier Ventures addresses that are now being flagged on Arkham here. And you can see they have thousands of addresses that they've divided up all these coins. And they said that there is over 300 million in funds belonging to this young man's organization, mostly in the form of Libra and in the Libra entity. But they have over $100 million in USDC and Solana that they extracted from the liquidity pools. That is absolutely nuts. That is absolutely nuts. It all happened within a few minutes. It's just crazy that you can have that much money end up in one place. Now, what was really crazy here is this part where he talks about how the Trump meme coin was being pre-sold at this private dinner. Again, I want to be clear. I don't think it's illegal to pre-sell an allocation to a meme coin. None of this is illegal. I think what the issue is that it brings in the question of what is good or bad optics, right? If you want to launch a project and sell part of it to insiders, that's one thing. I think it's really about the optics of what is fair and what is not fair. And that's where things become really, really negative for crypto. Again, I think the illegal part, what I feel and not think, I'm not an expert here, but what I feel was the illegal or unethical part about the Libra token was the pulling of the liquidity, was the dishonesty around the sniping, was the leaking of the information to many people so that it could be front run. I think that those parts of it were the negative part. I think that the launching a meme coin or potentially selling allocations to a meme coin, that stuff happens. I don't believe that selling allocations to a project is illegal. I do think that it's very important that the project is clear with the audience as to what's happening. And that way the audience has the information to behave or to approach the project knowing what dangers exist. That is the big issue. And I think it's about transparency. I've said this many times before. Everyone was saying, oh, pump fund is the answer to these VC-backed projects. I said, no, it's not. Echo, what Kobe is doing, is the answer to these VC-backed projects. What I've been trying to push as far as community launches with unlocking investors all at the beginning so the project can find a low price early, community can buy that low price. Those are much more fair mechanisms than just saying, okay, we're going to get rid of any kind of accountability and have just rug pulls being launched. That's not more fair for the audience. Anyway, what made this even crazier was Dave Portnoy decided to go on this rampant meme coin warfare path where he started effectively promoting micro-cap meme coins, the type of meme coins you would never hear me in a million years talking about, 1-2 million market cap meme coins, micros, and then just instantly rugging them. Like, you couldn't even believe it. He started deploying coins, owning 30% of them, and then just full stack selling them. It's absolutely crazy. He did this over and over again. And then he claimed that there was one coin, jail stool or whatever, that he was going to just stick by, but he just kept deploying over and over. Greed, jail stool. And then as soon as he rugged Greed, he then created Greed 2 or whatever. As someone who really kind of liked Dave Portnoy before this, I'm so utterly disgusted by that behavior. He's either one, a just sick, twisted, vile person, or two, he needs the money somehow, which doesn't make any sense because I think he's made hundreds of millions from Barstool. I don't get it. Again, I don't know what he's doing, but this behavior out of Dave Portnoy is crazy, and it's not onboarding anyone. I think the myth, which I've been always so against celebrity coins, I know I did support the Trump coin at first. I think that falls into a slightly different bucket, obviously, but in the end, you guys know over the last few weeks, I've pulled completely away from memes. I think memes as a category, as much as they were fun and they were definitely tradable and had momentum in 2023 and 2024, I believe that trade is pretty much over. And while there may be some blue chip memes like Pepe that make their way back up, or Dogecoin, whatever, I don't think that it's the same. I think that we've seen a fundamental shattering of that entire ecosystem based on literal crime and the other types of just wild unfairness and low odds of success. I think that trade is just completely done. So people like Dave coming in and pumping and dumping over and over and over again, it just boggles the mind. I don't know why he's doing it. But what we've seen is just a hideous display of bad behavior over the last few days in crypto. And in my opinion, this is what's happening. So Jake Chervinsky, one of the top lawyers in DC, is saying policymakers are usually a few years behind the cutting edge in the industry. That's mostly good for everyone. They don't waste time on stuff that doesn't matter yet, and the industry is free to experiment. But some moments bring instant focus. DC is talking about meme coins now. In principle, he doesn't see any reason why they should be treated different from other fungible non-security commodities. I think that that's effectively the definition that we're going to end up with for cryptos. But he wouldn't privilege or disadvantage them in any new regulations. And he says, but right now, I'd commit a good amount of enforcement resources to investigating them. AKA, while meme coins and all this stuff was getting the pass over the last few years, there is a chance here that the big long end, not of the SEC, but more criminal law, might start looking into some of these big schemes. I mean, people were stealing hundreds of millions of dollars from the audience like this. We have not really seen that level of extraction in crypto before. Again, there have been projects that have rugged. There have been projects that have failed. But mostly what we saw over the last few years was the SEC going after builders, people who are just trying to create stuff, people who were working really hard. As you guys know, I've been working on a project, Superverse, for 4 years. I've never sold or even touched a single token from the founder's vault. And when I read stuff like this, it blows my mind. But again, That's the difference between investing in tech and long-term projects and these meme coins. You could swing for the 1000x, but you're probably going to end up with zero. And when I say probably, it's almost guaranteed. With all that being said, let's jump ahead because this is not the only topic we have to cover today. To put a pin in everything, I am so over meme coins. I was right to not like them before, and even though they were a fun trade with the Pepes and the Mogs, I still hold a little bit of Pepe and a little bit of Mog, but I am mostly going to distance myself from that ecosystem because I just don't see it being actually good for crypto. I think that we need to get back to fundamentals where my heart has always been, and I believe all of this is going to push people more towards these long-term tech projects. Anyways, let's segue into what could be an insane bull catalyst for Bitcoin that no one had on their radar. No one had this on their bingo card up until the last few days, which is that we are going to see an audit of Fort Knox. Now, as you know, the physical gold market, or maybe you don't know, is rife with fraud. You ever think about how hard it is to verify if a certain amount of gold is real, if it's there, if it's authentic gold? You have to do a lot, and it requires a lot of access. And what it might surprise you to know is that their last audit of Fort Knox was in 1974, shortly after we went off the gold standard, which would lead a lot of people to believe, why haven't we checked in on Fort Knox? Now, before we get ahead of ourselves, we should answer one question. Why does it matter if there's gold in Fort Knox? Well, if you're going to look at countries and you look at the amount of interest that you pay to borrow from that country, our interest rates, which are so important, it's what all of this has been based off of. All of this Fed BS has been based off of interest rates. You want low interest rates as a country so that capital can cycle, but that requires the actual government being a worthy lender. You have to have trust in that government. And governments are usually given trust based on, one, the value of their currency, how strong is it? Two, the GDP, the output of that nation, how much money do they create? How much output do they create each year? And three, their gold reserves. Like it or not, gold reserves are a big part in how you evaluate if a country is wealthy or worthy of actually lending money. So with all that being said, gold is a very important piece of this equation. And Senator Rand Paul actually kicked this all off with this tweet, and he actually believes that we might not have as much gold as we think in those reserves. Elon Musk now picked up on this and said that Doge needs to audit Fort Knox. He argues this is gold owned by the American public, and we want to know if it's still there. All fair, all very fair. Now, here's the theory and why this relates to Bitcoin. Now, if the gold is not there, Elon pushes to audit Fort Knox. Audit reveals there is less than 500 tons of gold. Trump realizes that China and Russia have way more gold than the US, but very little Bitcoin. Trump issues EO for strategic Bitcoin reserve, citing national security. Money printer goes burr, and the US buys as much Bitcoin as the market will sell. Price of gold collapses in BTC terms. China and Russia realize that Trump got the jump on them, trying to acquire Bitcoin, and price of gold collapses further. Peter Schiff is admitted into a mental hospital. Yeah, look, this is the Bitcoin fantasy. But let's talk about the reality, which is that if there's not enough gold in there, it pretty much calls into question, one, the validity of the entire international gold market. If the United States was willing to lie about their gold reserves, how can you trust anyone saying what gold reserves they have? Obviously, the physical market for actual holding physical gold would probably go up, but the actual overall market and the reliability and trust for gold as a reserve asset would be called into question. And so what would then be prioritized is something that can be auditable on a public ledger 24/7 by anyone in the world. Bitcoin, I think there could be a case here that Bitcoin would see a massive surge in popularity. This is one of the craziest conspiracy theories meets economic theories I've ever heard in my life. But can you imagine if there's actually not as much gold in Fort Knox as they say, or if there's maybe not even any? We just don't know. Obviously, this is getting crazy. There's other theories that they could have way more gold in Fort Knox because they've been secretly pillaging and plundering other economies. I have no idea, but this is fun to think about. This is a fun one to think about and absolutely crazy if true. As Jeff Park says, the fact that people are passionately talking about a Fort Knox audit means that Bitcoin already won. Agreed, sir. But now we're about to get into the absolute meat of the episode, which is altcoins and how you should be thinking about your altcoins, or more importantly, how I'm thinking about my altcoins. Before I do that though, I want to thank the sponsor of this channel, the only sponsor of this channel, which is NordVPN, which you can get an absolutely insane discount on by signing up in the link below. As you know, I was the victim of a hack that happened not too long ago, and it absolutely scarred me. And if I was more secure about my internet practices, I am very sure that that wouldn't have happened. I encourage you, make sure that if you are a crypto user in 2025, that you are using a VPN. It costs just a few dollars a month. It is completely refundable if you don't like it. 30-day money back, no questions asked. And it's literally just a few bucks. You can get a juicy discount using my link in the description below. It supports the channel, and I appreciate it. So now let's talk about altcoins, because this, my friends, this ETH Bitcoin chart has been the arbiter of the altcoins. And as you can see, it did bounce here off of a pretty significant low that happened around the 0.023 region. You can see it bounced and it's tried a little bit to make its way up, although it's still very much so in this downtrend that has continued to almost perfectly match this pink line above it. And that pink line is the Fed balance sheet. So if we know here that the pink line is going to stop going down at the latest in June, right? So we have this new line here at the end of May, or at the end of June, rather, a little further down here. How low could we go? Are we going to potentially, go and bounce off it? Are we going to do one of those? I don't know. That's all just pure speculation. Or is this it? And we're just going to kind of explore this region and we've kind of bottomed. The point is, we don't know, but we do know that this pink line is on its way to stopping going down. We don't know if it's going to reverse and go back up, but we do know that Trump wants a weaker dollar. He's probably going to draw down the Treasury general account. He's probably going to work on getting looser monetary conditions. He wants to lower the 10-year yield on the 10-year bond, which would drive money out of treasuries and into markets. He wants to do things that will stimulate markets. He wants to do things that will make it easier to get in and out of a home. Those are the things that will happen. And so if this pink line stops going down and looser conditions emerge, that's more money being freed up for our assets. That's what we want to see. And chances are that that will lead, or at least historically, that has led to a return to risk and a return to things like Ethereum versus just Bitcoin. Now, this is probably the most important chart, which is the Dixie. As you can see, this is this goes back to the 2010. So this is a very long-term chart. And you can see that this move that Dixie's doing, where it has this pink deviation, then this green deviation, has happened before. It happened almost exactly the same back in 2016 and 2017. And this was 2017, and then this was in 2020. We saw this deviation out of the range and then back down. Deviation out of the range, back down. Deviation out of the range, now back down. And if we draw these lines, they've all been very similar in length. And you can see here that that might mean that the Dixie is headed into the low 90s. And they also have lasted about as long time-wise. You'll see here, this was the last one that happened, and it came down and it started at 114 and it came all the way down to 99. It lasted from September 22 to July 23. So if we just move this arrow over, this might get us into the low 90s, and it shows us ending here at the end of 2025. Again, if you're looking for macro to line up with this concept of 2025 being a bull run, well, here it is. You have the Dixie dropping. You have the 10-year yield actually looking to be lowered. You have the end of quantitative tightening happening in the middle of the year. Again, none of these things on their own are guaranteed for number go up, but together the collection is very convincing that the macro backdrop is wildly improving. And this is in a market that has seen 1000x's even with everything working against it. Now here we have crypto total market cap. This is just the entire market. And I think that this chart actually looks kind of good. Let me actually reset it here. You can see here that it was the peak of $3 trillion pretty much from last cycle. And this was put in here in November of 2021. You can see here that we pretty much played off of this lower high here. And that's what we ran up against in the beginning of 2024. And then when we broke through that, we've now been playing off of this prior high. And we saw a deviation back into the zone. Now, will we see another swipe back into the zone before we go higher? Maybe. Or maybe that was it. I don't know. But this chart actually looks kind of clean. It's not like super bullish, but it doesn't show any meaningful break under the prior all-time high and some, gathering of steam around the prior all-time high. That's logical for an industry, for a market as big as this one. To me, it's pretty clean. The lines are really, really clean. Now, if we start breaking all the way down here, that's bad. That would be bad. Let's make that red. That's bad. We don't want to see that, right? We don't want to see any of that. But the reality is right now, we're still sitting above prior all-time highs in the prior cycle. And that's pretty good. One of the most tried and true measures of a bull run is tether printing. And as you see Pentoshi putting the bear, looking in to see Pepe on the printer. $1 more billion in USDT, please. Very bullish typically. And then, I think that this pretty much summarizes it. My buddy Agent Chud here says, bearish chart for Bitcoin and ETH, Sol to $90. I don't know if Sol will go all the way down that low, but I do think right now, as we've gone over before, Sol is in a rebuilding phase. It needs to get away from effectively the raw casino and get more back into more, I guess, just other use cases of being a good high performance chain. Right now, too much of the wealth effect on Sol is tied to the casino. Anyway, next time alts move, I'll be in tech and innovation. I've been saying this, I don't know how long I've been saying this, but this is just where it's at, right? And you're seeing this. You cannot deploy a AAA game with 2 clicks on Pump Fund. You cannot deploy AI agent infrastructure with just 1 click on a blockchain. You cannot deploy RWA with all the licensing and all the permitting and the connection to the institutions like Ando and some of these other guys have, which we'll talk about here in a second. You cannot just remake high quality tech projects with a few clicks. In fact, they typically take years and years. And that's why tech is where the safe and long-term big gains will come from, because you cannot just dilute them as easily. Now, of course, they have their other issues and they're not guaranteed money, but tech and innovation is where I'm passionate about. It's what got me into this industry. It's what makes me love crypto. It's what makes me believe in crypto as a force for good. You know, meme coin's kind of the opposite. And so he says being scammed by VCs is better than being scammed by K-Whales and grifter villains because VCs have to stick around. Agreed. VCs are regulated by the SEC. They are highly regulated. VCs cannot just pop in and out and do crime. Like, granted, some of these tokenomics are bad, but we can fix those tokenomics. I don't think that pivoting to Anon meme coin launches is the right way. Anyway, very bullish in crypto in general from my point of view, but more in the sense that the backdrop is super bullish. If we can destroy this grift and vapor culture, a renaissance awaits. That's it. That's the bar. If we can destroy the vapor culture, a renaissance awaits. And that's what we're going to be doing here on the channel. We're going to be focusing on the fundamentals because I cannot shake the feeling that we are on the brink of something very special. And I would rather be a delusional bull here. Again, I've been getting a lot. Let me just show you. I've been getting a lot of salt in the comments. I tweeted this. Bottom is in, QT ending, Doge stimulus checks coming, the golden bull run to retire your bloodline is beginning, super cycle. And just there's so much negativity under this, man. People are mad, and I get it. People are down bad. But the truth is, as you guys know, I haven't sold anything. I've seen my net worth swing more than I could have ever imagined in 10 lifetimes my net worth would ever reach to. But I haven't sold anything because I genuinely believe we're on the beginning of something. No one and no mean comments can hurt me worse than if I'm wrong here. My money is squarely where my mouth is. So just know I am riding fully with this with you guys. And if I'm wrong, I'm going to be in a lot of pain. But if I'm right, I think we're all going to be very happy. This is the risk reward of crypto. We all are in it for the reward. We all have to take the risk. Now, that being said, this is how I feel. I'd rather be a delusional bull in these conditions. This could be a once in a lifetime run. I know people say once in a lifetime, but let's be real. They just legalized crypto. You have the government behind it. We could have a strategic Bitcoin reserve, all of which are single, one time, never going to happen again type factors. And this is after coins are down 70% or more, after altcoins are at historical lows against Bitcoin. ETH BTC is at the bottom. We have QT ending. Look at this. This is crazy. Dixie's rolling over. These are all the factors that usually lead to massive runs. And so if there's ever a time to be bullish, you want to be counter trend towards the lows, not with the trend when everyone else is euphoric. And granted, I have been euphoric a few times at the highs, but that's just because my view is that I'm going to hold this for the whole cycle. I'm going to be here for the whole time. So I'm excited as it looks like we're busting through into the next chapter of the cycle, but I'm not here to flip at the range highs and buy at the range lows and constantly flip flop here on the channel with the content. I just don't think that's something that anyone else can follow. And that's something that most pro traders will get chopped up and actually do poorly. I've seen most of the pro traders have gotten destroyed this time. So anyway, we heard literally today that QT is ending. This app never ceases to amaze me. I'm just sticking with my plan. I'm living and dying by my own words, and I've seen nothing that would make me think the cycle is ending. That's the truth, is if the cycle's not over, then yes, I'm bullish. Right? I've been bullish since the beginning of 2023, and I want to see this all the way through. Despite the fact that there were times where I could just have grabbed the money and run away, I don't want to do that because there's enough people who are not doing what they say in this industry. I want to be someone who does what they say. Even if I'm wrong, then you could call me wrong. You call me stupid, but you cannot say that I didn't do what I said I was here to do. And that's what this industry needs, is transparency and leadership. So I'm trying to do that here, not only on the channel, but with Superverse with everything we do. Anyway, I wanted to show this Trueflation. Inflation is really not that bad. According to Trueflation, it's 2.2%. It's been as low as 2% just a month or so ago. And I think that the stickiest sector was housing, which is the most lagging of all the sectors as far as indicators. So we think we do have a bunch of inflation prints that are coming that are not problematic. That's why they're thinking of slowing down the QT. Anyway, in case you were wondering, I saw a lot of people debating if Pump Fund is good for crypto. You could see here, no, as soon as Pump Fund launched, Solana stopped going up against Bitcoin. And so, Benjamin Cowan is saying he thinks this is a coincidence, obviously sarcastically. But again, this is what's happened, is the launch of Pump Fund has taken away the actual bull case for Sol in a lot of ways. The bull case for Sol used to be holding Sol because it was, this amazing project. And now you're constantly trading in your Sol for other meme coins that rug. And then the casino that's operating these meme coins is just selling that Solana for money. So this is actually a net negative. It's causing a drain, and Solana has stopped outpacing Bitcoin. So this is a huge, huge trend that you should really be aware of. Maybe this will change. Maybe Solana breaks through and starts outpacing Bitcoin again. But for now, I think that this all is showing why I think my gut feeling that Solana and the reasons why I was holding it from the bottom have sort of fundamentally been undermined here. I will let you know, I promise you, if and when I get back into Solana with both feet, I promise. But this brings me back to the sort of core port, right? Where you have your BTC, ETH, Coin, MicroStrategy, and Sol. I heard some people saying MicroStrategy isn't that solid. As you know, I'm a big fan of Coin. But if you hold BTC and Coin, obviously Solana and MicroStrategy and ETH, like this as your core portfolio, you're not I mean, obviously ETH has been underperforming, but if you have the majority of your portfolio in these coins, you're not having the same level of psychotic breakdown that you're seeing in crypto. Obviously, I know a lot of people get seduced into the altcoins, myself included. Obviously, as a builder, as an advisor, as a consultant, I end up with more in the narrative coins. But if I was to invest out of my cold cash, I do it in these particular distributions, right? But regardless, I do think that the whole point of where we are right now is to survive, is to get through, because we will look back at these times if we get a bull run and laugh at how everyone was pulling their hair out in this short time period, when over the long period, crypto is about to enter into this amazing era. And I think that what we saw, I think that Libra, I think that all of the meme coin rugs, the Dave Portnoy episodes, I think that those are the kill shot for the meme coin sector. I think it's the absolute kill shot. And anyone who is still trying to invest in meme coins with the same attitude they had in 2023 and 24, I think it's not only silly, but I think it's just pretty much suicidal. And I believe that if this industry is going to make it forward and going to do the things that we need it to do, we absolutely must expel some of this from our core belief sets. We need to get back to basics. Now, of course, obviously, I spotted the Pepe run. I spotted the Mog run. I thought that these things were fun and were a nice addition on the side of tech. But my real heart is always with the innovators. Otherwise, why would I be spending my entire life trying to build something of substance at Superverse with gaming? Because that's the consumer app, I believe, that will actually hold and grow users, that will actually hold and grow network effect, because you can't compete with a game just by cloning it. You need to spend years and years and years working with hundreds and hundreds of people to create convincing game IP. Same with AI tech. The strong AI tech leaders will create incredible growth. But again, AI tech is a little stickier because it's mostly based off of OpenAI and other models, which are mostly open source. So it's easier to create competitors. Now, something that I just saw pop up is this Plasma. This appears to be a stablecoin blockchain created by the people behind Tether. And this actually looks crazy. If there was a way to long stablecoins, I think this might be it, because stablecoins are quite clearly one of the killer use cases for crypto. So I don't know any details here. I'm just saw this post on Twitter. I'll be looking to figure out how to get some exposure to this, because I do think stablecoins will continue into the trillions and trillions of dollars, and Tether is undoubtedly the king of stablecoins. So if Tether is able to create a sort of compliant blockchain here that's built on Bitcoin, that could be an absolute nuke of an opportunity. I have no idea when it's coming out, how it's coming out, but just know this is on my plans. I saw this tweet. I thought it was pretty good. Yano says, let's say your portfolio was reset today. You had to reallocate into only 2 coins. You have to hold these coins for the next 6 months. You can't buy BTC, ETH, or Sol. What are you buying? And I think that this is a good exercise, which is to say, okay, if I had to allocate to just a few coins starting right now without any of the hypium that we've experienced over the last few months, what would you go into? And those coins are probably where you should, move your coins to right now. And I'm not saying to sell and get out of your entire portfolio, but I'm saying, what do you have the most faith in? Because not everything will come back to where it was at the peak of December. Some things will go way, way higher than where they were in December. I think some things will go much, much higher. But the reality is that you should really be thinking about your portfolio as, where is quality? Where is the resilience? Where is the strength that's going to outlast and continue to have flywheels? Because to me, moments of weakness are a time to reconsider. And that's what I've been doing. And that's why I looked at Sol for the first time and I saw something kind of ugly. Whereas before I just seen it as strength. And now I'm thinking, where do I want to hold my sort of L1 bet? And I don't really want to be so focused on just a chain that feels like it's too tied to a meme coin casino. So I'm trying to figure out where that bet is. But again, I will keep you updated. As you know, I'm a big fan of Hyperliquid, which, as I said, I was moving, some of my SWE and some of my other L1 bets into Hyperliquid. And Hyperliquid has kind of functioned like a good stable coin. It came down here to about $20 was when we first talked about it. It's peaked as high as about 28. I think it was 28 or 29. And now it's just sort of hovering. It's definitely been better than anywhere else in the market. So I like Hype. I think it's a very good project because it started with a actual product, which is the perp dex, and it's kind of expanded from there. So Hype is an interesting one. I think it'll be strong for the rest of the bull market. But again, I think it's extra, extra strong during these bearish chop times. Now, I've actually showed this chart a few times and I wanted to touch back on it. I don't actually own Mantra Ohm, but I was showing it just to show that, hey, look, these RWA protocols are actually crazy and they've been up only. But I do do want to say I don't want to get into Ohm because after doing some research, apparently there's some supply control issues here. And this is why this chart just doesn't seem to abide by the laws of physics. Apparently they have a Polkadot chain for Ohm as well as an ETH coin, but all of the supply is on Polkadot, and the one on ETH is the one that's listed on exchanges. I haven't dug too deeply into this, but effectively there's just no real coins out here. So this market cap isn't really the amount of coins that people have and can sell. It's a bit of smoke and mirrors is what I've heard. That being said, I do think that RWA in general is a very strong category. I will not be buying Ohm because of the confusion, the sort of lack of transparency there. But I do think Ando is the one that really seems to be the titan. And I don't know if this one's going to pump a lot, right? I don't know if this is going to go, to $100 bazillion, but there is a BlackRock connection with Ando. Supposedly this is the one in with BlackRock that has the institutional backdrop, that has the real partnerships. And so if you're thinking, okay, people are really going to tokenize stocks, bonds, real estate, whatever, I mean, Ando would be the more blue chip version or the most blue chip version of RWA. So I think that RWA as a category makes a lot of sense if they're going to tokenize stocks, bonds, hedge funds, etc. You're going to want one that actually has a really, really intensely strong connection with the big TradFi institutions. And the only one that has those confirmed at this time is Ando. There's some other more speculative bets, but Ando's the behemoth. Again, at $3.7 billion market cap with an FDV of 12 billion, you're not looking at crazy upside, right? You shouldn't be buying this for a 20x or 100x, but could this thing do 5x or so from here over the course of the bull run? And could this thing do a nice gainer, maybe 10? I don't know. I mean, anything's possible, right? But this would be a way that you could long this narrative with something that is more established, right? And so looking at quality is, I think, what we should be doing in these downtimes, because you get, look at this. It was trading at, what is this, $2? Now it's down at, almost $1, so almost a 50% discount from the highs, right? Those are the types of opportunities you want to look for. Now, Berachain, I talked about this one, and obviously the launch was horrible, but I said I was looking to get in hopefully under $5, but definitely looking at that under 10, hopefully $5. And the market just was in such a bad state after that video that I was really in a more cautious positioning. And what I've seen is that it barely popped under $5 here, what felt like just for a split second. And it's kind of been, sideways at this $5 territory. So I'm actually haven't gotten fully into Berachain because I didn't get a chance to get into that under $5, and the market conditions just had me not in the mood to buy stuff. But I will be nibbling a little bit of Berachain. I think that it still has a chance to be interesting here, but there's also another chain Monad coming soon. And so the L1 space is quite crowded, but I do have this desire to fill my L1 bags with something that isn't sold for right now. So I will let you know, but I got some negative comments about Berachain because obviously the chart kind of did this. But if you guys remember, I said I was looking to get in under 10 and hopefully under 5. So, at 650, it seems like this is kind of trying to find a floor here after the airdrop. We will see. I will keep monitoring this one because we do want to know what are going to be the hot coins of this cycle. What are going to be the hot new L1s? I think Solana, especially the position it's in, is opening the door for other L1s to have a moment. That's what I think. Once again, meme coins, I'm just really not seeing it for a lot of meme coins. I mean, I think one of the great examples here that I was super excited for is Pengu. Pengu is absolutely, it's down almost 90% from the highs. That is something I wouldn't have thought would happen here because Pudgy Penguins are one of the most aggressive, real, hardcore communities, has this real scalable Web2 or IRL business, CPG. And you'd think that this Pengu meme coin, which was prophesized by GCR and you sort of beloved by everyone, after Trump came in, it kind of took all of the shine for something like Pengu away. I do think Pengu has a real opportunity once we find a floor here. I do think the Pudgy Penguins ecosystem is still amazing. And I think that their chain Abstract is where a lot of that value will start to flow. So I think people should start to look at Abstract. But until you start to see massive reversals on things like Pengu, which are not just anonymously created rugs, the reality is that the meme coin sector is a wasteland right now. It's just simply not something that should be investable right now. And I personally think that focusing on quality and tech is what will long-term be actually good for the industry. We just have to do that. We have to do that. Now, before I stop talking about meme coins, the only thing, if you want to monitor and you genuinely don't want to listen to me, I have been attaching this, and I got this from Ansem. So thanks to Ansem for this Ichimo cloud. But you essentially put the Ichimo cloud or the Ichimoku cloud on your chart on the 6-hour time frame. And here, I'll just show you the settings I have on it. These are the settings that I have on it. You can go ahead and pause the video. And this will give you essentially whether or not the altcoins are trending. You can see that it flips to this lighter cloud. You can see it flipped here for Pepe. That was before its first big move. This was back when we started covering it, and it did 1,000% here gains. And you can see that it gets mostly the trending moves, and you can see it stays in that color until the trend kind of ends. You can see here it's been in the red trend. If this cloud starts flipping majorly, maybe I think Pepe could be a sign that memes are having some relief. Again, though, I just don't see memes being the same thing they were last year. So until Pepe's really charging up, until the meme, big ones like that are really, really crushing it, I just don't see meme coins as an investable sector, not anymore. Now that said, you know me, gaming, AI, RWA, layer one, Bitcoin is definitely beautiful as it's ever been. And I do think that in general, we're coming up on a pivot point in the market. I believe we're in the late stages here of the altcoin pain cycle, which was hard to spot because so many altcoins were doing so good. It was hard to understand that we just really weren't in a bull market yet. However, there is writing on the wall, and that's why I'm not rushing to the exits. I'm not rushing to take profits and kind of scrape what I can off the edge of the tables. No, I'm sticking to my plan, and I want to take profits in my favorite narratives, though I am, like I said, pulling my meme coins largely off. Like I said, I'm spiritually done with meme coins. I'm still very bullish on the chosen narratives being RWA, AI, and I do believe gaming will have its massive cycle. That's just what I believe. And I specifically think once we get an altcoin season, the wealth effect will really be great for products like gaming, which can have rewards in game, which if there's a natural bid for those tokens. So I'm very excited. Nothing's changed on my end. Again, I know it's popular right now to be very angry at the industry, but I think that it's an absolute betrayal of you guys to change my strategy as I'm starting to see more and more pieces come together. If you guys appreciate these videos, let me know what you think. As always, I encourage you to do what's best for you. There is a ton of risk in crypto. Any of these coins could go to zero, as we've seen. Many of them have, and you need to own that risk. So of course, I encourage you to do your own research at all times and make sure that you're comfortable with the level of risk you're taking. As you know, I will be here, rain or shine, sickness and in health, sharing with you my perspective. And if you appreciate that, make sure you watch this video popping up right now.